we're going to talk about effective meetings. Meetings are a very critical item within project management. We do lots of meetings to ensure that we understand where we are, where we're going to go, and how we're going to get there. So we're going to explore effective meetings. So there are many ways that you can have your team actually report to you, but one of them is basically having them do a document, something like this, where it has their names on it, the reporting period. You talk about open work, assigned to particular members, completed task, open action items. This template can be anything you want it to be. We actually have a template in the resource section of this particular course, but just a way that what information you as the project manager need to gather from your team members, you can get them and put it into a status report, and they can report it back to you prior to you actually conducting a meeting. Now here's some guidelines about project meetings. Now project meetings are a little bit different than normal meetings that you may have, and so we're going to give you some keys and some tips about how you should do that. So first of all, the project manager listens. The project manager doesn't chair the actual meeting. The project manager should allow other people, other members of the team, to actually chair. It is very difficult to chair and run a meeting and listen. Now, the reason we say the project manager should listen is because he or she can then look around the room and get a sense of the atmosphere that's in the room from the team members, and to get a sense of the actual status of the project from the team's perspective. So, advice here, best practice is don't chair it as the project manager. Just sit and listen. Right? Reporting is by exception. What you don't want is go around the table, have 20 people at the table and say, hey, tell us what's going on. What you want is them to report by exception. Exception's either a good exception or a bad exception, and get them to report by that. Focus on the pending, overdue, and closed items. So focus on those. So the agenda should be focused on things that are relevant so you can get to where you want to go. So that's kind of a oversight of a project meeting. And again, the key thing here, I think, is the project manager listens. So there really is 3 steps to conduct a meeting. First one is you plan the meeting. Okay, what is the meeting all going to be about? The second step is you conduct a meeting, and the third step is you do a post-meeting review of that meeting and tell people what actually has taken place. So let's go over each of those individually. So planning for the meeting, some keys to this. Establish the objective prior to the meeting. Make sure that when you have a meeting that everyone, and yourself included, know what the objective of the meeting is. Why are people there? What are you trying to achieve? Prepare an agenda in advance. Okay, establish timing for the meeting. Identify someone to record outcomes, not a minute taker, not to rehash or to record every conversation going on, but outcomes of the meeting. Distribute the agenda and other necessary documents prior to the meeting with instructions. So just don't send out an email saying the meeting is going to happen. Send out an email that is about the meeting, but give them instructions of what they need to do prior to the meeting. Maybe they need to read a document. Maybe they need to be prepared to talk about a particular item. So whenever you invite somebody, tell them what the objective is, tell them why they're there, and tell them what you want them to do prior to the meeting and in the meeting. The second step is actually conducting the meeting. Make sure you start the meeting on time. Review the agenda, but don't make additions to it or changes to it. Follow the agenda, limit discussions in time. Use the parking lot technique. If there's anything that comes up that's important, park it and come back to it later if you have time. Capture all outcomes, new action items, decisions, assumptions, issues, risks, discussions along with dates, and if necessary and appropriate. Conduct a meeting summary. Right? And again, as a project manager, you're not the chairperson. You are someone who's just there and you listen. But at the end of the meeting, it's important that the chair actually goes through and states things like this. The objective of the meeting was, we had a time frame of 1 hour. We discussed the following things. Our conclusions are this. And that gives everybody the opportunity to make corrections to that, but also to say, have you actually achieved the objective of the meeting, so they can assess whether the meeting was of value to them. Now, step 3 is after the meeting's done, here's some things you need to do. Distribute meeting outcomes along with updated documents, action list, within 2 business days after the conclusion of the meeting. Post-meeting outcomes, file it in your project management information system if you actually have that, or SharePoint, or wherever you store your documents. And then follow up with any key stakeholders that are there. For example, someone may have attended the meeting, but not the key stakeholder, but maybe a representative of the key stakeholder, and they were assigned an action item. You want to make sure the key stakeholder is aware that that action item has been assigned to an individual that they're responsible for, and then just go from there. So often we as project managers have to report on a regular basis to management, and management usually likes to have an executive summary, so that's sort of an overview of how the project's going. And if we do have challenges, or we have problems or issues, don't just state the challenge or the problem or the issue, but state the problem, the challenge, or the issue with a solution to that. Tell management about what our accomplishments are, and then tell them about what the action plan is, and give them the overall health of the project. I like to start off with a stoplight. So for example, if the project's in trouble, I make the stoplight red. If it's sort of in between trouble and being good, I make it yellow. And if it's green, it means it's healthy and on track. So that's the kind of way that I think is a really good way that you can actually produce a management report that's not too long and not so onerous on the individual to read it, but will give them a clear picture of what the status of your project is. And if they need more information, they can contact you and go from there. Things I've learned over the years, my many years of running projects, is the power of a comment. And often what I'll do in my status report to management is I'll mention an individual and say that individual has done extra work. And if you see that individual, or you have correspondence with that individual, could you, as management, simply say, good job? You don't even have to, management doesn't have to remember what the job was, they just have to say, good job. That is incentive, that is powerful for individuals on the project to be recognized by the senior levels of management. It's a technique I've employed for many, many years, and it's extremely powerful when it comes to motivating people and ensuring that people do a good job. Makes people feel very good. You can use it or not, entirely up to you.